Well, hi everyone. My name is Jeff, and today I'm going to be talking about how to build up a strong momentum in our meditation practice. In particular, I'm going to go over some components that are involved over a particular day in a particular 24-hour period in our meditation practice, which also goes hand in hand with our mindfulness practice. I wrote a book recently called Folding the Mind, Unique Discoveries We All Can Make in Deeper Reality Naturally. And as I mentioned in previous videos, I would be going over in these videos different themes and sub-themes and types of knowledge and understandings in the book to give you, to help you actually in your practice, if you ever indeed ever read that book, or if you continue to watch the videos on this channel. The whole idea is to be able to bring our practice to a higher level, obviously, by working at it. And I have my own ideas about it. Of course, I've gained knowledge throughout my self-discovery period in my life, which has been for many years, from different sources. In particular, of course, I'm totally excited about my teacher who I've studied with for many years. He transitioned a while back, Dr. Frederick Lenz, who is also referred to as Rama. And really can't say enough about what he taught myself and his and many other students. Quite a unique teacher, and so I've in my own practice leveraged what I learned from him, among other things also, and I present these things in these videos. There's ways to go. I made inroads, some deeper inroads, to say the least, into what I learned from my own teacher. And I feel everybody who's interested in this type of self-discovery approach, there's so many approaches to self-discovery, can also make very deep inroads. And of course, without presuming about my audience too much, of course, many of you, or all of you have, who are practicing, have discovered all sorts of things, and have gone to all sorts of levels in your practice, I'm sure. My book is also a lot to do about inner discoveries that are made that can be quite unique to each of us because of our unique structure, and actually in the deep causal structure of ourselves, the formless. I normally would not have known much about that, except for just the nature of my own teacher, who just was tremendous in that regard. A very deep level of immersion in the formless and beyond with him. And of course, by being around somebody like that for many years, it can happen to us also. A certain amount of that can be transferred or transmitted, which I talk about in various ways. We'll continue to talk about in different videos. But getting back to the topic today, there's multiple components, as I mentioned. I'll probably be talking, just touching on them lightly. There's just so much there, of course. And like, for instance, starting off our morning, I'm suggesting and have, and what I do at times, there's so many different things that I do in my own meditation practice, but what have experience with is meditating in the morning. Of course, I take a shower. You might even have a cup of coffee, I guess, or a cup of tea. Get prepared to meditate in the morning. I am, my own teacher recommended for the morning meditation the enlightenment music. Enlightenment music, it has to do with this poster behind me. It was created many years ago, and I will have a link to the free access to the enlightenment music, and also I'll mention another music for the evening, which also will have a link, excuse me, to that also in the description of the video, and it's also free access to that just beautiful, powerful music. And I'll describe both these albums briefly. The Enlightenment CD, we touch on 15. The idea is to touch on 15, touch on 3 major chakras: the navel center, the heart center, and the third eye. I have gone over chakra meditation briefly in my book, and I possibly will go over that in a video, but I'm just going to talk about it briefly here without going into too much detail on the chakra meditation. It's also will be mentioned on my website, where there's also links to the access to the music. But for instance, we would meditate, for instance, 5 songs on the navel center, which is an inch or 2 below the a finger width or 2 below the navel, and then the heart center, it's more or less the middle of the chest, something like that. And then the third eye is about a finger width above the center of the eyebrow line, the ajna center. So it's the navel center, heart center, the ajna center, also referred to commonly as the third eye. And a lot going on with chakra meditation, so it'll be for another time, another video possibly. By focusing on these chakras, we can access, they are energetic portals to actually the formless. In each, excuse me, each chakra, it has its own unique feel and its own unique type of direct experience with these, with the formless associated via that chakra. The navel center, center of will and power. The heart center, balance, expansiveness, centeredness. These are from my point of view. And also the third eye, wisdom. I also associate a certain amount of psychic types of higher psychic type of access there. And associated with the white light. It's a very interesting chakra that I seem to focus on a fair amount. Actually want a fair amount of balance in each chakra. But the idea of meditation mainly, which I'll be discussing here, is to quiet down the mind, to still the mind, and to the point where we will be slowing down thought. And eventually over time, thought will, on its own, as from my experience over many years, will stop actually on its own, with the caveat that there's other things involved in balancing out our life, a balanced life in our career, creative activities, relationships, so many aspects of how we balance out our life that I will be going over in these videos. But once the thought stops, it's very safe. In my opinion, the only way actually to get into that point where a thought is going to stop is by living a very balanced life and having very good intentions, positive intentions, and compassion, caring about other people, caring about our planet. It's a really has a lot to do with this higher kind of positive intent. And there's other aspects to intent that I have talked about in my book and will mention at another time. But when that thought slows down, even when it slows down, but it eventually, when we don't even notice thought anymore, it's actually stopped for all intent and purposes. From our perspective, there's a lot of energy is released. So we access a lot of, we start feeling the flow of Kundalini energy, which is actually awareness itself, is one way of looking at it. The Kundalini energy in chakra meditation is talked about as energy sitting in the root chakra, the first chakra, and coming up through the second chakra, then the third chakra, the navel center, coming up eventually coming up the Sushumna to the heart center, to the third eye, and eventually there's actually a gap between the third eye and the crown chakra. Which is interesting and also a topic for another time. But the idea is when we actually feel, and we can over a period of time, if we do our practice correctly, that there's a flow of energy that's very exciting, very noticeable, and actionable actually, that flows from that first chakra all the way up, eventually jumping that gap to the crown chakra. It takes a while and a lot going on there, and I mainly talk about from my own direct experience with all this. And I've had varying kinds of success in different with the different chakras and different things involved with this. And so I will talk from that point of view. Many people will have different experiences with the flow of Kundalini energy via these chakras. So by focusing on the chakras, it's actually a buildup of the focus from maybe a medium focus to eventually a very tight focus, which I'll talk about another time. So these are getting a little bit more into the intricacies of chakra meditation. And but via the Enlightenment music, which is empowered music, and that's very important. So it's infused with a type of very high auric, high vibrational energy that has to come from the composer of that music, which is Rama. He composed that with his group of his students, just very talented musicians, a group of musicians who call themselves Zazen, the name of their music group. And they're involved with different music that they did under the guidance of Rama. Just a lot of power in there. And that's really one of the keys, one of the components to building up this momentum that we'll get into deeper here shortly. That component of actually letting the music, focusing on the chakras, but letting that music infuse us with energy that's embedded in the music, you might say, that actually is very noticeable, very exciting, a lot of fun, and has an element of ecstasy, actually, ecstasy to it. It's a very exciting high vibrational energy that we can start accessing. And so there's multiple ways, actually, in the meditation that I'm talking about to access energy. So by focusing on the chakras with the music in the background, or the music we may be playing through our earphones or what have you, there's also the element of the high vibrational energy of the music itself. So it's the focus on a particular chakra, it's the actual vibrational energy in the music, and there's other components too, but those are two main components. The focus on the chakra, of course, we start accessing a fair amount of energy. As the mind starts quieting down, as we're letting go more, letting go is another aspect of meditation practice and also mindfulness practice, but it's also being attentive, being aware, being in the moment, and having fun with it, not forcing things on ourselves. There's a lot of balance involved in meditation practice. So that's briefly the morning meditation. Now we're starting our day, we're going to our job, we're doing our creative activities or what have you, going out into nature, another major component. We can do that whenever. If we're working, it can be done on the weekend and whatever. Get out into a high vibrational high vibrational nature spot. For instance, I go to in the local mountains. I've found some areas that have a lot of energy to it, a fair amount of energy to it, that I will hike in, so immerse myself with that type of energy of a nature spot. A mini power spot would be another way of referring to it. I talk about power spots in my book, and also I'll be talking about that more in other videos. And then I'll sit down a little off the trail somewhere, some spots that I know about in the local mountains that I go to a fair amount for this very reason. I may not be feeling so great someday or something, some morning. And then I'll do my meditation out there in the nature spot to pick up my energy. Always feel good after being in nature, let alone running in the morning, doing yoga, working out in the fitness center, all sorts of ways to move the body, dancing, which can actually free up energy and kind of break up patterns, different patterns that we may be getting stuck in. So much to that also, breaking up patterns. So when I'm out doing mindfulness practice, which takes place really 24 hours a day. But when I first talk about the meditation, like to the Enlightenment City, I'm talking about what I would refer to as formal meditation practice. Then our mindfulness practice kicks in for the rest of the day before our final evening meditation. As an example of a particular approach for a particular day. But the mindfulness practice is so important. I've had a video on mindfulness practice. I call it a sophisticated mindfulness practice. But we're really aware in a fun way, in a kind of relaxed way, but attentive way of what we're interfacing with throughout the day. And we're watching, we're kind of aware of our own kind of what's going on in our mind, the thoughts. To a certain extent, we're not being forcing things on ourselves and making it into an intense, unfun activity. The idea is to make it fun, but to have that balanced level of attention and awareness. And also making ourselves available to different ways of perceiving throughout the day. The different things that we're coming across throughout the day that will affect our energy level. In fact, we're looking for things that will actually enhance our energy level throughout the day, because it's going to come in. It's a big part of actually building up this momentum. And I'll go into some reasons of why it can be quite important to build up a momentum. Meditation is not necessarily that easy, although it can be if we work at it. And mindfulness practice is not necessarily easy either, but we work at it and we get better at it. And it'll help us retain a certain amount of energy throughout the day. In fact, if we do it correctly, with practice over time, we'll actually gain a fair amount of energy throughout the day. We won't be losing energy. Talk about actually how we lose energy in another video. So we're not being reactive with other people. We're not being reactive with ourselves. We're not judging other people. We're not judging ourselves. We assessing what's going on with other people and in different situations is important. But that is different than being judgmental, judging ourselves. There's a difference there, which I probably will talk about another time, a very important difference actually. But to be aware of what's going on in our interactions, but less judgment, less reactiveness, so that we don't lose energy. We lose, I think, a fair amount of energy by being reactive. And then we start entering the evening, and so after a day we're watching, yes, we try to interface with high vibrational type of energy if we can. And if we notice that we're interacting with sort of negative energy of some sort, we can always focus on our navel center briefly to kind of push it out. But the idea is to notice if we're interacting, what kinds of energies we're interacting with in our environment or with other people, and just be aware if somehow we start dropping in our state of attention, in our consciousness, that something's going wrong, and to do something about it. Do something about it immediately if we have to, walk away from a particular person because something, at least for a little while, if something's not going right. Energetically, we're feeling we're getting drained or whatever. To notice that and to take immediate action in a balanced way. We're not, treating people correctly. So there's when things go wrong, we're going to do that with a proper etiquette. If we're in a particular part of our environment that doesn't feel so right, then Get out of that particular environment if you can for a little while. Get out into nature. So always paying attention what's going on during the day and how and what we're interacting with. So as we get into the evening, we're still doing our mindfulness practice, whatever it might be, during the evening. We're paying attention to our level of focus, and once again, what are we interfacing with? Is our energy level rising? Is it dropping? Is it pretty much staying the same? We notice all those things, and we can discern after a while different patterns going on with our energy levels throughout the day, and always constantly trying to tweak things. We can notice something, a particular pattern that we might be doing becomes, as we get more energy and we get deeper into higher awareness, we'll notice these inner patterns that have that can become a type of obstacle to us. And as my own teacher said, recognition is liberation. So when we recognize kind of these inner workings of some of these subtle patterns, and I'll go through these patterns, talking more about patterns in another video, we can end up actually neutralizing those patterns. We become aware of what is draining us, or where we're losing energy, and so on, and where we're gaining energy. If we notice different things, that's going to be helpful to us, and that's part of our mindfulness practice. Excuse me. So as we approach the evening meditation, can be done late in the evening at some point. For me, sometimes I'm doing it. I may do my evening meditation 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock. Sometimes I'll go actually into the early morning, like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. But I'll be meditating to the canyons of light. So that's the specific music for the evening. It's 15 tracks, 15 songs, and 14 of the tracks have to do with power spots, such as Monument Valley, Grand Canyon. And it was composed by Rama, and what he did with that is something quite amazing. Just energetically, through his type of higher auric type of energy that's infused in the music, it's more designed and geared towards tapping into these power spots, which each power spot has this distinctive energy and characteristics to it. And they're, in particular, these power spots are in the American Southwest, California, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico. Oh, but I did miss the state, Nevada. And particularly unique power to each of these power spots that is through practice, through overtime, is accessible via the music. And that empowers us and actually ups the level of our meditation, ups the energy level, so that it's more easier for us to focus and to feel and to discern what is going on with these each of these chakras. Also, what is going on in our higher mind. It's quite a fantastic process, and so highly recommended to to alternate, of course, but over time to meditate in the evening meditation through the canyons of light. So for the purposes of this video, talking about momentum, building a momentum, this is something I particularly do a fair amount of the time, actually, and I mix things up, I change things up from day to day, of course. There's other empowered music also that Rama composed that are highly recommended. But these are particular type of approach that I've had some success with, a fair amount of success with in my own meditation and mindfulness practice. In particular, this idea of building up a momentum, which I'll go a little bit deeper into what can happen and why it's, I feel, significant and very important and exciting. It took me a while to be able to access this type of, get enough ability to be able to feel this momentum that I'm talking about. So I'm talking about it directly. That anybody who works at that, I feel anybody who works at this from their own perspective, in their own way, can also access, of course, or already has. Yeah. So So with that final candle light type of, in this example, in this particular example for a day, it becomes discernible, not every evening, but a fair amount of time, a fair amount of evenings. I've noticed this is that, because I have created a certain balance and flow, accessing higher energy throughout the day, from the morning meditation through my mindfulness practice to this final evening meditation, that it just becomes easier to just feel what's the more of the expansiveness and more of the type of things that are happening in our higher mind, actually in these portals, and these portals to the formless, to the causal higher dimensions, which is never thought it would be possible for me to do something like that, but it's very possible actually, especially when because of the access to one of these what I call higher teachers, who have they have a lot of experience there, and then of course we gain a lot of experience too. It depends on our inclination and our intent, and what do we want to accomplish in our lives, and what are we trying to accomplish in our self-discovery practice. A lot of things that we discover changes us, changes our orientation to things, and it's just it's what's called moving upward in a very high type of cycle into deeper reality, deeper into higher consciousness, and so on. So many different terms for it. Once again, I would be meditating on 5 songs for each chakra, and then finally, at the end of towards the end of the last few minutes of the meditation, I will sort of let go of a chakra, and still be attentive and aware and mindful, and be focused to a certain extent, but it's sort of like more of a letting go, and that's something I'll mention at another time. And then can be quite empowered at that point, and then we go when we go to sleep. We in my mind, it's more likely that, and it's part of this momentum I'm talking about, that we would be accessing the dreamless state, and that we necessarily wouldn't be dreaming. Dreaming can be quite a wonderful thing. I always suggest that people are dreaming, which has to do with the astral type dimensions, that we access very high vibrational aspects of the astral, in particular the higher astral, which can be done when we go to sleep at night. It takes a while to be able to do that. It's actually not even a doing, it's something that kind of starts happening to us, because we're, in our practice, going deeper and deeper into high vibrational type of awareness, and these higher vibrant radiant dimensions, potentially, that we naturally will be accessing just higher type of aura associated with the higher astral. It just becomes sort of a seamless, natural thing over time. And our dreaming, in that regards, can be quite exciting, quite empowering. So we're not losing energy in the higher astral, that's for sure. It's actually enhancing our energy. Now, if we're in the mid-astral, what I call the mid-astral, which a fair amount of people I think are in the mid-astral when we dream, it can be neutral. But if we notice that we're actually losing energy, there's something, we might be in inner conflict of some sort, or the energy of the dreaming is not tight, it's not, it's off, let's say, which happens to a lot of us, can happen to any of us. Something maybe during the day kind of set us off. Somehow the energy is not really flowing, and it's not necessarily happy. Might even be negative. Obviously, if we know something's negative, we want to notice that and do something about it. Even in the dream plane, things can be done. But what I'm suggesting here, when we build up a momentum, is that we can go beyond the dream plane, so to speak, where we're not really bound in or tied into a particular dream, even a higher astral dream, which is something fantastic. And but if we actually are in the dreamless state, what's called the dreamless state, the third state, there's a waking state, the dreaming state, and then the dreamless state, the deep dreamless state, where there isn't any dreaming, And that happens over time. It can happen over time. It takes a while. And it's all up to each individual person what they want to do in that regard, if that's something they're inclined to want to experience. It's a deep level of experience where there's no dreaming, and there's a certain, it's a knowingness there. There's a knowingness that we're in the dreamless state. It's not an intellectual type of thing. It's inner knowingness, and it's very, there's no mistaking it, actually. It's quite subtle, quite deep, but you'll know when you're in the dreamless state. It's quite significant and quite, I think it's important to know about these four different states. Beyond the dreamless state is the state of ecstasy, as mentioned by Rama, my teacher. And that, then that is accessing just an abundance of light and luminosity. And that's what can happen, I feel, if we build up this certain momentum that we're actually seamlessly and be aware of the fourth state, the fourth state of ecstasy, full of endless light. And it just takes a while. No guarantees, but if we have a really good attitude, really positive intent, and as in this video, as I mentioned, if we can build up that momentum, so much to building up the momentum. So I really only touched on it briefly and mentioned a few things about type of formal meditation practice, mindfulness practice, accessing empowered music, and then being aware, what is going on when we in the dream state or dreamless state, and so on. So much to learn there. So much there that we deeply experience directly, that will help us see what's going on in our deeper access to deeper reality or higher consciousness, and actually to kind of up the cycle, increase the how deep we go into the higher type of understandings, higher spheres. We notice things each time through our meditation practice, mindfulness practice, where there's all sorts of openings throughout the day that we can notice, which I haven't even gone into. But it's also these openings, higher openings to higher consciousness, does build up our energy throughout the day. Also, it's another component, but it's part of our mindfulness practice and being aware of what we're accessing. Once again, where there's access, openings, you might say, to higher awareness. So I think I really said a bunch of things, maybe more than I really meant to say in this particular video. So I'll review it when it's over and see what I'm going to do with it. But I think we did okay today with this video and covered some interesting things, especially sort of an introduction to how to build up a momentum, which is key to actually, once again, to going increasingly higher, cycling increasingly higher in our practice, in our self-discovery of these higher spheres and higher dimensions and higher understandings, higher intelligence, all sorts of things. It's just very exciting, and I forget it at times. Sometimes I lose my motivation at times, but when we start accessing more Kundalini energy and actually touching to this higher luminosity, these higher spheres and higher dimensions, boy, does that grab one's attention, grabs our attention, and we re-motivate ourselves. We may have to reboot our practice in some way, do a reset, whatever. Once we even access a little bit of this higher type of energy, high vibrational energy, we want more of it, but in a good way. It's very seductive, but even when we kind of lose hope a little bit, or we're kind of get off the path a little bit, or we're sort of like and kind of stuck in some way, in some just kind of like status quo type energy or status quo type of patterns that we notice and we get frustrated or whatever it might be, just even a little bit of a pickup by walking in nature, by accessing some of these higher openings I mentioned in our mindfulness practice, and by accessing more energy in our meditation practice, even just a little bit of flow can change things right around really quickly. And we start realizing, as an example, some of the inner patterns that actually become obstacles in the sense of how we actually look at ourselves, conceive of ourselves, and thinking, oh yeah, we only reached so far, we can't go beyond that, or we stuck in some way and there's nothing we can do about it. But that can change in a moment. So that has to do with the nature of awareness, the nature of consciousness, and the nature of the various states of mind that we can be in, and that it can change within a moment. And when we realize that, we can actually take the pressure off ourselves a little bit, knowing, and not get over frustrated and even panic about that our practice is stuck or it's not going well. It's just sort of like becomes an obstacle. It's just a misunderstanding we have about ourselves. It's actually involving an inner pattern in how we look at ourselves, how we look at states of mind and higher consciousness. That is actually, once we see how we can kind of get in the way of ourselves and even interfere with our own practice, a type of self-subterfuge in our own practice, that it can quickly change. And maybe I'll go over that more, would like to go over that more in another video about how to address different things that can happen, of course, in our meditation and mindfulness practice, and how this momentum that I've talked about in this video can, we can lose our momentum. It has taken me a long time to understand more and more about this momentum, how it works more and more, and what we can do with it, and obviously the things that can interfere with building up a momentum. So great. Thanks for staying attentive with what we were talking about in this video, and wish you much success. Have fun in your practice, and have a good time. Thank you.